Okay, are you ready to take your marathon training to the next level? I'm going to help you simplify your marathon training and the philosophy behind marathon training so that you can not just pace your next marathon, you can race it from start to finish and start to get the gains that you previously thought were not possible for you. But why should you listen to me? Because I've been where you are and way slower than you are currently. When I went out for my first run, I couldn't run for 400 meters. 8 months later, I did my first marathon in 4 hours and 25. And the logic would be that you should take natural, gradual steps forward, maybe run 4:15 and work towards 4 hours. That just didn't excite me. And so 6 months later, I ran an hour faster, 3 hours and 25 minutes. So when I started, I thought running 26 miles was impossible. But then by implementing simple structured training sessions like I'm about to give you, not only did I complete marathons, but I ran them faster and with more confidence than ever before. And although that seems like a big chunk of time to take an hour off your marathon, because you're in the start of your running journey, it's actually not that crazy. What I then learned when I started to consistently implement the things that I'm about to tell you is I went from running a marathon in 3 hours 25 to 11 months later running a marathon in 2 hours and 37 minutes, which is 48 minutes faster. That is pretty crazy. But it's not uncommon if you put these things into place. So let's break it down and make this as uncomplicated as possible, because running is often overcomplicated. To complete a marathon and perform at your best, you need to gradually build your endurance while improving your ability to sustain a consistent pace for hours. Now, these sessions are overkill. There's far too much volume, and I wouldn't suggest that you do these sessions. They're a bit like the Emil Zatopek sessions of 60 times 400 meters, which is 24 kilometers of volume. But that was in the 40s and 50s, where we thought that more quality, more volume of that quality equals a better runner. We now know that not to be true, and there's a sweet spot of how much we should be doing at marathon pace or faster in order to move forward. But these sessions that I'm about to give you will give you an idea of how you can put in the progressions to gradually run more time at your goal marathon pace. Session number 1. Now, the marathon is 26 miles, but we're going to work with a volume of 24 miles. I'm going to break that up into 8 times 3 miles with 60 seconds rest in between. Now, again, I wouldn't suggest you do this session. It's an example of a session that would be typically thought to move you forward because we want to be spending as much time as possible at our goal race pace, at our marathon pace. Even if you did 8 times 3 minutes, something like 5K pace or between 5K and 10K pace, that's a great session. To do 8 times 3 miles with 60 seconds rest in between means that you're going to need to bring the effort down to marathon pace, and for most of us, even slower than that. What I'd suggest is you half that at least, and you do 4 times 3 miles, or even quarter it and do 2 times 3 miles. 2 times 3 miles, about 2 times 5K, would be a great session to then build upon as a marathon pace session, to then build upon to 3 times 3 miles, and then 4 times 3 miles. Great session. Session number 2, 6 times 4 miles with 60 seconds rest in between. Again, massive session, 24 miles worth of volume. If we bring that volume down to 12 miles and do 3 times 4 miles, that's a great marathon session. 60 seconds rest in between because we're pushing, we're going into zone 3, potentially at the top of zone 3 for our marathon paced effort, depending on how well we are trained. So we've only got 60 seconds rest in between. The heart rate should come down a bit, and then we can tackle the next rep. Great session that, 3 times 4 miles. Session number 3, 4 times 6 miles with 60 seconds rest in between. So again, 24 miles of volume. And to make that a manageable marathon session, 2 times 6 miles or 2 times 10K. If we can execute 2 times 6 miles at our marathon pace, it's a great confidence booster in order to move forward and attack that marathon in our dream pace. Session number 4, it's getting crazier as we go on. 2 times 12 miles, again 24 miles of volume and just 60 seconds rest. Literally almost 2 times half marathon, almost a full marathon in total. And again, If we want to execute that as a marathon session, as a sensible marathon session now, we might want to do 1 times 12 miles. So a 12-mile tempo run at our marathon pace would be a great session to do and execute to get us ready for our marathon whilst we're on fatigued legs. That accumulated fatigue that we get from the training schedule, we're still on that. So once we freshen up, we're confident enough that we can run the whole marathon at that pace. So why will this work? Even if you do the wild sessions of 24 miles of volume, what is the thinking that we used to have behind this? The thinking, even if you have these sessions, as I've just showed you, is that as we accumulate more and more and more volume at our marathon pace, that's going to build that volume spent at marathon pace and become super efficient, moving over the ground at the pace that we want to execute the marathon. And those short rests in between help us to recover a little bit, but not enough, so that again, we're spending time at the right effort level and we're able to quickly get the heart rate into that effort level, probably zone 3 for most of us, some of us into zone 4 for the entire session. The great session, especially the halved version of it. What else do you need to do to make that work? Even if you're doing the full 24-mile session, which again, I would not suggest you do, suggest you do half of it. Even those are big sessions. 2 times 6 miles, big session before a marathon. The rest of the runs should be recovery runs, easy runs, and you've also got your strength session, which is going to feed into your interval session and make you a faster all-round runner that's much more efficient at moving over the ground, a much better overall runner. The most often asked questions in running are, how much volume should I be doing? How many miles should I be running per week? How long should my long run be? How many miles or how many kilometers should I be running fast in my interval session? The reality is, as I've just showed you those pretty wild sessions, is we used to think that we've got to build as much volume as we possibly can at running fast over the ground in order to complete 26 miles on race day in the marathon at the goal pace that we've set. We now know there's a sweet spot and that you can run a marathon off 30 miles volume. And if you run more, it's going to help you to get to where you want to get to because it helps your overall running. It increases your aerobic base. We also know that some of our running would be better if we run it faster than marathon pace or faster than race pace. We also know that to build our endurance, all of that doesn't need to be run at marathon pace. It's just too risky. And therefore we can run a lot of it in zone 1 and zone 2 and build again that aerobic base, the base of the triangle, so that when we do go fast or when we do try to go towards marathon pace, it's much more comfortable for us because we've got that bigger engine. And just in case you're thinking of going out and running the bigger sessions that I've just given you with 24 miles of volume, think about this. If you were to go out and run a marathon, 26 miles, or go out and run 26 times 1 mile with a minute rest in between, it's likely that for most people, it's likely that that second session broken up is going to be way more difficult and much more risky when it comes to injury. Even if we run those mile repeats, all 26 of them at our marathon pace, much more likely that we're going to get injured because of the pace variation. When we're running a marathon, we're focused on controlling the effort and sustaining the effort at the pace that we can manage for the entire duration. Way more efficient, in just the same way that a car moves forward efficiently at a certain pace. But what do you think? Just a fun video today because it's almost 2025. But would you try the Emil Zatopek session, the 60 times 400 meters? You think it's a good idea? Would it move you forward? Could it be a fun thing to do from time to time? Certainly a great challenge. Let me know in the comments below.